Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show. This is the show that covers all phases and aspects of divorce so that you can avoid common, costly, and sometimes permanent mistakes and have a smarter, saner, savvier divorce. I'm going to introduce our beautiful host, Lisa Decker. Lisa is a certified divorce financial analyst, a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce, and the CEO and founder of Divorce Money Matters, and the wonderful organization that brings us this show, DivorceTown USA. So Lisa, what are we going to hear about today?
Well, this topic this month has been all about love and recovery and how to deal with finding your heart again after it's been broken. And today is no exception. We've been talking with a lot of different experts, and they've been bringing us some great information. And we've had people talking about staying friendly with the in-laws, how to be your own Valentine, and even dating after to divorce. And I'm so sorry, folks, I'm a little tongue-tied. My tongue will catch up with my mouth here shortly. We're going to talk about your new chapter. What do you do and where do you want to go next? And we'll be sitting down with Stephanie Robbins. She is a colleague and a great person, and I'm so excited to have her here today. She's a longtime member of DivorceTown, and we just love when she joins us on the show. She is a licensed clinical social worker who has over 20 years of experience in working with individuals, couples, and families. She has a thriving therapy practice in Alpharetta, Georgia, and she is also a parenting educator, speaker, trainer, parenting coordinator, and mediator. So this lady has a lot of experience in a lot of arenas in the divorce area, and I can't wait to hear what she's going to share with us now. So Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So tell us, when does the new chapter begin during a divorce? Yeah, that's a good question. Is it when you're thinking about it, after you get through it, when you've signed all the paperwork off? Where do you consider that to be?
So it's kind of to decide when the new chapter starts. A lot of people will think, oh, well, when I decide to get divorced, then that might be the new chapter. Or when you're given the divorce papers from your spouse, or if you even get the papers drawn up. But really, the divorce is final when the judge signs off on it. And but the new chapter can start earlier. Like I said, once you start thinking about it, that could be the beginning. Also, the new chapter starts sometimes when people move out of the marital home, once they start telling people, like friends and family. So there's a difference of when it actually really starts, but really when the judge signs off on the paperwork. That's
okay. That makes sense, because that's when you are officially divorced. And so I understand that. And so why is moving forward after divorce so hard for some and not as hard for others?
Well, divorce in itself is really very difficult. I like to kind of say sometimes it's almost like going through a death, grief. It's like, I call it like a living death almost. Yes. It's sometimes people's first loss that they've ever had in their life. It's hard because of all the losses. You have the loss of the hopes and dreams you thought you might have had when you're married. A lot of people think they're going to grow old together. The old De Beers commercial, I don't know if you remember, when people, the older couples holding hands and going into the sunset, that can be lost. Another part of the a loss is the actual status. When you get engaged, you almost get like this status, like I'm engaged, I have a fiance. And then once you're married, you're like, I'm in the marriage group, and then now you're like put into the divorcee group. A lot of times that's hard for people to even say or even admit, because some people look at divorce as such a failure, which it is not, but people look at it that way. Another thing is like with divorce is the financial loss. A lot of times you might come from two incomes to one, or if you're been a stay-at-home parent and you've not worked for a while, then now you're suddenly single and you might have to look for a job or start a job. So the financial, that loss can be very difficult for people. And when people don't have that, they also have problems with feeling secure. Financial stuff helps people become secure. Another thing that happens, that's divorce is hard for people, is that they lose the sense of like self-esteem and confidence, because when they're married, they sometimes identify as the couple, and then your partner's not there. So then you're not really, you feel kind of like lost without that partner. So then you have to rediscover your new identity and to determine who you are now. And it's like the whole process of rebuilding that confidence. And I think the ways that people can build that is a sense of community, a sense of purpose and passion, and focusing more on the positives. But certain people, so going back to your question, is why some people find it harder than others. Some people may have emotionally divorced maybe 3 years before, so they've already gone through the grief process, and then the one spouse that didn't see it coming kind of feels blindsided. With my couples that I work with, I find that a lot, where one person's like, I was blindsided, I didn't see this coming. But the thing is, there were signs all along. They knew the marriage wasn't working, there were some problems, but sometimes they're in denial, or they think, oh, this is just, marriage is hard work, this is just a phase, and those type of things, kind of the denial. So.
Yeah, that's so true. All of the losses that you speak about, and how they affect people in different manners, and how different spouses react. I find that true as well with the clients that I work with.
I think it's true what you said too, Stephanie, that for the person that was kind of planning and preparing for divorce, obviously they're going to move on to that next chapter quite a bit faster than the person that didn't see it coming, or maybe didn't want to see it coming. And so their reaction time is just that much slower, while they kind of catch up emotionally to where the other person's been for a while.
And so people get like, I've worked with some couples where they get resentful of one spouse, they're just emotionally coping with everything, and the other one looks like they're not even having a problem with it. Like they move forward and they're like, well, why are they moving so fast? How can they just let this go? We've been married for 20 something years. And it's because they emotionally divorced earlier, or going through the divorce is, just a new, like the new chapter. They're starting something new and they're excited about that. And so they are more focused on that. Women are actually more, they go into like a survival mode, and are actually more into like organizing and trying to come up with their plan of action. It's kind of a sense of security. Men will sometimes be hit more with the emotional, where the women will look sometimes kind of cold, because they're so focused on getting their life situated, especially when they have kids and different things, because that is something that is a main focus if they have kids, like on where they're going to live, or what's the new chapter and how it's going to affect the children. So
interesting. So what can you tell people that they can do to move forward after divorce and start living this new chapter? What are some coping mechanisms, and how can you help them?
So when people are building that new chapter, sometimes they don't want to, but it's going to eventually happen. So, coming with the realization, the acceptance phase of the new chapter starting. So if you can look at it as you have control over your life, your new life, what do you want to do? When, you might have had these hopes and dreams from before, but now you can make new hopes and dreams, make some goals. You can start connecting with others. I think building a community, a support system. You may have a lot of friends that are still married and couples, and you kind of feel like you might be a third wheel. Well, maybe start venturing out and finding people that are, divorced or newly divorced. If you start talking to people, you'll hear more stories about different things, and you start connecting. I think people need to feel their feelings. A lot of times we push our feelings down. I always say if you push your feelings down too much, it's almost like you stuff in a toilet full of toilet paper and then it just explodes. So, you know, processing those feelings, you can go talk to your friends, talk to your minister, pastor, or rabbi, talk to a therapist, just processing your feelings, because it does bubble up tons of feelings when you're going through divorce, trying to manage it all. I also sometimes with my clients, we develop something called a coping skills like toolkit. And it's almost like physically you can actually get different things to help you with coping. You know, if you're a fidgeter, having certain fidget toys, like I have like little rocks that I use, you know, my clients can rub during session or different times, or they find something to hold on to put their nervous energy into. Breathing things, learning to do the square breathing in and out to kind of calm the breathing. And just, you know, in your toolbox, writing a list of things you can do when you're feeling like, you know, anxious or sad, or when lonely. Loneliness is a feeling a lot of people will feel because they've been around, you know, connected with somebody. And then especially if they have kids and the kids go see the other parent, then that sense of loneliness can be hard. I always tell my clients that use that time when you don't have your kids to recharge, re-energize, go clean the house and do the laundry then. So when the kids are around, you can have more fun, because sometimes we're so focused on all the things that we have to get done that we miss that. And the kids, you know, are going through a lot with the divorce. And so they need you to be more present. And that's the problem that a lot of people have when they're going through the divorce process, is that they're thinking about their future, they're thinking about their past, they're thinking about everything else, and they can't really be in the present moment. So mindfulness is something, grounding, being in the moment, and kids are really good about doing that. So kind of just follow your kids' leads on that. Another thing that I recommend people doing when they're going through the divorce process and helping them move forward to the next chapter is kind of like clearing the clutter and organizing their house, or even decorating. If people are moving to a new place, or if they're staying in the marital home, change around the, you know, some pictures, you know, paint colors, you know, buying new furniture, different things. And sometimes redecorating can be fun, especially for the kids. If you're moving to a new place, the kids can have the opportunity to decorate their room. I know my daughter has the little LED string lights that you can change the colors with your phone, and it can put it with music. Like that can be something fun to make, you know, a new beginning, a fresh space. And then, you know, getting involved in the community. I was talking about having a support system. Sometimes people have a hard time making friends when you're an adult, kind of, and so you need that support system. So I recommend people maybe volunteering somewhere, a place, or doing something that's a passion of theirs, meeting like-minded people, maybe venturing out into like different social clubs. There's those meetup groups that people can do. I know a client of mine is part of a divorce meetup group, and they meet like every other weekend. They are going on like trips to the lake, or they do like cabin trips, and then she was telling me that when somebody's sick or something's going on, they do like a meal train. They're there for birthdays. It's like a really good support system. And if you don't have that in your area, then you can develop that.
Great.
And
Yeah.
you know, those type of social groups are more positive. A lot of times people don't want the negative, like a regular support group. Sometimes people might be a little more focused on like feelings and different things that might be more heavy. But when you do the social group, it's like you can kind of let go and move forward together with the community.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do love that. Those are all great ideas. And I really love, you know, starting your own social group. If there's nothing around, meetup's an easy way to do that, folks. Take a look at that and, you know, find your people, attract your people, create your own new reality. How can someone stop rereading closed chapters after divorce is final? You know, sometimes I find that people get so, we get into this loop, this negative mental loop where we just keep going round and round and round with things, and it doesn't do us any good. But, you know, what are some coping mechanisms that people can do when they find themselves in that position.
And sometimes people are in that loop because they have to process it over and over until they get that feeling of kind of a peace. Well, when you're going through the divorce process, it's hard to find that peaceful moment. You might be like good at one moment and then something hits you or something reminds you or triggers you, or you have some sort of maybe a conflict with your spouse or something with the kids, or just, like I was talking about, like if the kids go to the other parent's house, then you're stuck with the loneliness. And then you start thinking about your past and things like that. Well, when you're stuck in the past, you're going to like really not help yourself because you're ruminating about old things. If you can start looking more at the positive. I work with people that have depression and anxiety, and I realize that people that are depressed are more likely to hold on to the past. And then if you're anxious, you're looking too far in the future. You really need to be in the moment. But the problem is when you go through a divorce, like I was saying, how it was a loss, you're grieving, and there's that fine line between grief and depression. And, if it lasts longer, if it becomes deeper than that, it could be a depression. A lot of times people need talk therapy to kind of process things. They may not want to bring up some of the past stuff or different things to their friends or burden others. So going to a therapist, somebody that can listen and help them be a support system for that. Sometimes people can't handle it on their own, and they go through that depression or anxiety, and they might need medication, like a referral to a psychiatrist might be helpful. But really trying to get yourself to catch yourself when you're thinking about the past and go, okay, am I really reliving this? Is this necessary? Is this helpful? And then maybe think about changing it. Think about the past and positive things, like when you had good memories with your kids and different positive things. And also look at, you're married, there were a lot of good things too, and not focus on the negative. And I always say I was married and divorced. Now I always tell my clients, I'm on the other side of divorce now. I have my new chapter. I've remarried for several years now, but I just always remembered that, I would kind of reminisce about my past or worried about the future. And I needed to stop ruminating about the past because I was holding on to things a little too much. And when you hold on, you become like more anger sometimes, and angry at the situation, angry at your spouse or your ex-spouse. And that doesn't help. It just makes you feel stuck. So focusing more on the future and positive stuff, and think about those positive memories. So I hope I answered your question.
I like what you said that about mindfulness earlier, and I think that applies here too. If you can be mindful of when you're getting lost in your negative thoughts, and I even like the idea of your toolkit. I think and I've actually gone through this recently with a different type of grief, where I just have something that makes me happy that I can pick up and do or hold in that moment where you feel like you're kind of getting overwhelmed by the bad, by the anger, by the grief. And I like that about being aware and then proactive instead of just sitting.
Yeah, the sitting's never good. You're just going to ruminate, and it's not doing anything, And with the toolkit, having just writing things on like note cards. One thing that I do with my family, when they get really frustrated or angry, we go into the ice maker in the fridge. Do you ever have that where the ice melts together and it becomes like this big ball? So I'm like, okay, let's go get the frozen ice and go to the balcony and throw it off, or throw it in the street. And it just kind of feels good to destroy that, and that's not going to really mess anything else up, so finding things. Or sometimes going back with the ice analogy, you're feeling like so much emotional pain, you can actually put an ice cube in your hand and start feeling the coldness, and that can kind of get you into the moment. You're like, okay, your hand might feel numb, but you're just kind of you're like, okay, feel the coldness, feel the numbness, and be like, okay, this is something that I'm taking all my feelings and putting in something physical. And it kind of changes your mindset. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are such great tips. One thing that I have found in the darkest days of my life that's gotten me through is gratitude. And finding something, anything in the darkness, you have to see some light. And I can remember days where I would go outside specifically looking for something beautiful. And this tiniest things is what I would look for, because that to me was a spark of hope. You know, a weed, if you ever look at weeds, they can have beautiful little petals and colors. And you know, it's funny, but the analogy of a weed, something that people try to get rid of and try to, you know, ignore, step over, mow over. But for me, sometimes the weeds, getting caught up in the weeds and just sitting down and being with them, that moment of mindfulness and looking at this amazing little creation that God created, and the beauty of it just put me right in the moment and took me out of the darkest days. And the movement, you know, you talk about sitting doesn't do anyone any good. Movement creates endorphins in the brain. So get up, get moving. If you don't feel like going outside, put on some music and dance, do something to get your body and moving and get the endorphins flowing through your brain again. Those are feel-good chemicals. They're free. They're here for us to enjoy. So we can do things that can help us to feel better in the midst of the darkness. And I love what you said about volunteering. We know when we're giving to others, there's something about that as well to help us realize that we all have pain. It comes in different ways. Every life will experience it. And when we can give to others or to animals or whatever your causes may be, it just elevates you in the giving as well as the recipient being allowed to receive. So I encourage all of these things, put those toolkits together. I love that, Stephanie. That analogy is just beautiful. And I hope that we have given folks some toolkit ideas here today. What are some other things you want to share? You know, I have a question about something that you talked about earlier. You know, our support groups and our people, as you called it. You know, we all migrate as well as far as the stage that we're at in our lives, right? If we're married, if we're single, if we're divorced. One of the changes that I see, and one of the most difficult things that I see for some folks is when they have been part of a spiritual home together, whether it's a church or a synagogue or whatever their religious beliefs are. Sometimes it's the religion itself that or culturally, you know, some ethnicities, you know, really frown on divorce, and or the church may not be supportive of it, or now they're both a member of the same church and they feel uncomfortable attending together. Have you experienced anything about that? That's come up several times for me in recent times, and I just not sure what to tell folks other than, you know, look for a new spiritual home or a spiritual advisor or leader. But, you know, what can you say to that, Stephanie? Has that been something that your clients have dealt with?
For sure, for sure. That's actually a huge component. When people are married, they have their marital friends, couples friends, and I don't know, sometimes friends that had when you were married will choose sides, unfortunately. And so you might feel a little lost if they chose your spouse's side or they choose your side, kind of things. Going back to what you were saying about the spirituality, people actually do better if they have a component of spirituality. They don't have to be religious, but feeling like there's something out there that's bigger than themselves, kind of helping them attract positive things in the universe, kind of. But a lot of times with churches, you know, families go to the same church, and it's that decision of, am I going to leave my spiritual or religious place of worship? I don't want to just focus on churches, but, you know, or do I not? A lot of times couples will stay at the same place, and they just do it sometimes for the kids, and it's helpful. And then sometimes people will find a new place of worship, which can be really kind of interesting and help them find a new community. Might find something that they might have had before, and they might find a spiritual leader that might connect with them better, or that they can go to for like counseling and different things. But that's a great question about the spirituality and connection to the religious supports. A lot of times the churches or different places of worship also have the volunteer opportunities that you were like talking about, kind of wanting to help others. Kind of when you help others, you definitely get out of your own space in your head and different things. And also you meet new people and feel like you're doing something to give back.
It's interesting what you said about in the beginning of, friends choosing one side or another. It reminded me of something that I hadn't thought about for a very long time. But when I was very young, my husband and I had another couple that we were just the best of friends with. And we did everything together and we had children together. And, we always just thought we'd all be a unit, and the couple ended up getting divorced, and it was gut-wrenching for us as friends. And it kind of was that pull, who do we align with? And pretty terrible place to be in. And my heart never really healed from that whole situation. So, I hadn't thought about that, but divorce can affect so many people, not just those going through divorce and their immediate children and family, but friends and others who love them as well. So, make sure that you're getting out there and making some new friends if the old ones just can't continue forward in the way that they did before. I'm still friends with one of them, but it hurts. It's definitely a void for everyone involved when the marriage dissolves.
It's also, when you're bringing up the friend stuff, it's also, not only do you divorce your partner or your spouse, but you divorce your in-laws. And so you might have had a good relationship with your in-laws, and it might have been like, if you didn't have a parental figure on your side and you had your mother-in-law as somebody that you confided, and then now you're like, well, are they going to side with my ex, or are they going to side with me? And what do you do in that situation? That's difficult. The in-laws might feel like they're betraying their own biological child or adult child, if they're kind of talking to you, or even if they're going through some sort of like conflictual divorce, they may not provide you that kind of support like they did before, so you might feel betrayed by somebody that you had a loving relationship with. So that's hard. It affects them too.
The good news is we have a show about that.
We did.
Just a few weeks ago, actually, another DivorceTown member, Kathleen Shack, talked to us about whether or not you can stay friendly with in-laws and if you should stay friendly with in-laws. So for anybody that would like more information about that, we encourage you to go back and watch that episode from a few weeks ago, because it's an excellent point that both of you brought up.
Well, I'm so happy that you were able to join us today, Stephanie. And I know, Marcella, that you're going to share some information here about where folks can get more resources. Kathleen, before we go, is there anything that you want to share with
Stephanie,
folks?
Sorry, I threw Kathleen in there. Stephanie.
I'm sorry.
I know Kathleen, she's fabulous.
We are grateful for both of you and all of our wonderful experts. And we're just having a little tongue-tied, mind-twisted morning here today. All right. Well, Marcella, show us what folks can expect at DivorceTown, resources at various places that they can find, and who will be our next guest.
Absolutely. So as always, we want to direct everyone to DivorceTown USA. It's where you can connect with Stephanie if you would like to talk with her more personally, or schedule an appointment with her. Also, as you can see on your screen, we have put together an ebook with a roadmap to help you kind of navigate your way through DivorceTown a little bit easier, so you don't get lost and you don't get stuck just in that old litigated bigger bucks boulevard that costs everyone a fortune. So we've put together some other options for you, and we'll help you walk you through that. This is a free download you can get from DivorceTownUSA.com. Also, we wanted to tell you about another resource. This is again at no cost to you, and this is available at DivorceMoneyMatters.com. And this is a free divorce financial fitness kit. It's got a working worksheet where you'll be able to gather your documents, make a list, find out what you need to do, and move forward with that as well. Also included in this ebook is 50 must-ask questions so that when you do meet with your attorney, you'll know what to ask them and why you're asking those questions. Again, as Stephanie mentioned earlier, support groups are so important and can be a huge opportunity for you to meet like-minded people. At DivorceTown USA, we actually offer a virtual support group. And so anyone can come from anywhere in the world, and we have had people from all over the place lately. And you can join us through meetup.com and just look for the Divorce Help and Hope Support Group with the logo that you see on the screen. And hopefully we'll see you at the next meeting. Finally, what we're bringing to you next week. Next month, we're going to focus on divorcing better, different options and how you can do it. And it doesn't have to be the old, let's go to court in front of a judge type thing. So we're going to start with the amicable divorce process next week. And we're going to have as our guest, Tracy Ann Moore Grant, who is actually the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. So please join us next week. We've got a lot more coming your way. We want to thank you for joining us today as we continue to help folks divorce better, one family at a time, no matter where you live. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.